So a quick thank you to our sponsor, Careerist, before we dive into today's episode. Because not everyone wants to spend their time learning how to code to get that elusive career in tech. And with Careerist QA Bootcamp, you don't have to. In just 4 months, you can have live training, a remote internship, and a career coaching that sets you up for success. Because in a world of job layoffs, QA is one of the fastest growing fields in tech. And there are currently 37,000 openings in the US right now, and with salaries up to $105,000. And Careerist grads, they're working at companies in 42 states, and with a very highly respectable 4.7 star Trustpilot rating, I think it's clear the model seems to work. And remember, if you don't land a job within a year, you get your tuition fees back. So what's the catch? Well, the only catch really is that the seats for the next class won't last. So you'll find the link in the show notes. Check it out. Let me know how you get on. Maybe I can get you on the podcast when you get that career in tech and tell me about your journey. But now it's time to get straight into the discussion with my guest today. What about the people who are working on their feet all day? Those people that are not chained to a desk? Well, in today's episode, I'm joined by the CTO of Zebra Technologies. And he makes a case for why AI should start showing up where the real work happens. Because we're going to talk about Zebra's focus on frontline, from wearable machine vision tools to the newly launched Zebra Companion platform that's already helping retail and logistics teams solve problems in real time. So my guest's name's Tom. He's going to share how AI is being tailored to real-world environments where speed, precision and human partnerships matter, not just big data prompts and glossy demos. We're going to look beyond that today. So if you've ever wondered how AI can support, not sideline, the most important people there doing hands-on and time-critical work, this is a conversation you are going to want to hear. So could this be the missing piece in the AI adoption puzzle? Well, stick around because I'm going to officially introduce you to Tom, who's going to tell us all about this and much more. So thank you for joining me on the podcast today. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Hey, Neil. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me and for having Zebra Technologies on the podcast. So I'm Tom Bianculli. I'm the Chief Technology Officer here at Zebra. And that really means a lot of different things at different companies, CTO roles. But at Zebra, my focus is on kind of 3 key areas. One is around vertical strategy. By vertical, we mean the vertical markets we serve, like retail, manufacturing, transportation, logistics, healthcare, and so on. So bringing some strategic perspective outside into the organization around that. The second, as you might expect from a CTO, is an advanced development team. These days, and I know it'll be the subject of our talk today, a lot of focus on AI, machine learning, computer vision. So we have some of the greatest and brightest minds in machine vision and computer vision development here at Zebra. A number of those individuals work for me and help build some of that out from an AI perspective. And then we have an incubation focus, which is building out new capabilities within the company that are going to turn into new revenue streams for us. And that's one of the focus areas around that for us right now is in this Zebra Companion area that we announced earlier this year, which is a generative AI assistant for the front line. So that's the latest of what we're developing in that incubation leg. And it's really exciting. I get an opportunity to work with brilliant people every day and meet with our customers quite frequently, which I enjoy very much.
And everything you said there, there's so many different reasons why I invite you on the podcast to join me. I've been fortunate to speak with many people from Zebra over the years, but I don't think we've tackled AI. And AI is this huge behemoth of a conversation right now. But one of the things I'm increasingly conscious of is while much of the AI conversation focuses on those desk-based roles, your focus seems to be on the shop floor, the warehouse, the hospital corridor. So what shaped this commitment to AI for the front line rather than the front office? I feel there's got to be a big story there.
Yeah. Well, we've at Zebra have been focused on serving the front line for decades, right? And we talk about delivering productivity at the point of activity. So being able to help our end customers, our end users, be productive in the moment. So if you think about it, it's, loading that truck or restocking inventory in a sales floor or medication administration bedside to a patient, helping a customer in aisle. All of those kind of frontline activities are ones that using our barcode reading, data capture, mobile computing capabilities, connecting wirelessly, all of this capability to help that worker be productive in that moment of activity while they're trying to get that job done. Because we really want, if you think about it, if you take an example, you think about a nurse who went to school to care for patients. They didn't go to school to document the patient's care and take, tedious notes on things and spend, which they do very often, spend 20, 30, or 35% of their time documenting and doing nurse handoff. If we can use technology to be able to seamlessly capture that information, collect it, and then inject that into the appropriate systems, then we can really return time to that frontline worker and give them the ability to do what their passion is and what they went to school for, which is to improve patient outcomes and create healthy and safe outcomes for patients rather than having to do a lot of these manual tasks. So that's been our focus really for decades. Now it's just bringing the AI capability to that front line as well, and allowing a cognitive companion to work alongside that frontline worker. And we'll talk more about it, but we definitely see a horizon-based view to that. Some things we're doing now and over the next the balance of this year, and then some really pretty transformative things that I think we'll get the chance to talk about over the next couple of years. That goes beyond a traditional companion that you would prompt, so to speak, as we think about like ChatGPT and these kinds of interactions, and gets into companions that are using a combination of hardware and software that can actually see the workflow you're in. Think about wearable cameras that can understand what's happening in an environment. It's hearing the audio that's coming in, so it's understanding the context of what's happening. And then it's able to guide that worker and maybe even up a learning curve. So if you've got 10 years experience and I'm new to the job, it'll behave differently with me than it will for you. And we see that as a great opportunity to reduce worker attrition and improve workflow outcomes for that front line as well. So lots of exciting stuff.
And I think one of the many reasons why this topic is so important is, regardless of what our LinkedIn news feeds will tell us, deskless workers, the front line, they represent 80% of the global workforce. And bringing Zebra into this, I mean, your portfolio includes a mix of research, acquisitions, and so many different partnerships. So how do all these strands come together to deliver AI that's practical and actionable for people doing physical and time-critical work that are not glued to a desk all day?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're right, especially over the last 5 years or so, we've done a whole raft of acquisitions, some in the software space, some even in the robotic space, with the acquisition of Fetch Robotics on the West Coast that makes autonomous mobile robots for picking applications, e-commerce applications. And, the way to think about kind of the thread around all this, like you say, like how does it all tie together? There's kind of three main pillars in the way we think about our strategy. One is about visibility. If you don't have visibility, if you can't understand what's happening in an operation moment to moment, then you can't be agile. You can't redirect and orchestrate the workflow to meet customer demand. And we're definitely living in an on-demand economy, like we all experience it. Place an order online, have it delivered to your doorstep in sometimes a few hours, or even, an Uber, where I could stand on a street corner and press a button on my phone and have a ride within minutes. So people have been trained from an expectation perspective. Consumers, even businesses now in a B2B context, have been trained that they can get what they want, when they want, how they want it delivered, very personalized, very fast. And so that's requiring our customers to live up to that expectation. They need to have visibility. Where are their people? Where are their capital assets like fork trucks in a facility or vehicles over the road, delivery vehicles over the road? Where's their inventory? They need to see that all in real time and then orchestrate it pretty much moment to moment or hour to hour to meet this on-demand expectation that their customers have. So that's one around asset visibility. The second is around the connected frontline worker. Increasingly, it's not surprising, right? We're seeing more and more workers become connected, have a device in their hand, be able to communicate with their peers, be able to get access to information, be able to have tasks or events pushed to them in the moment. And that we're seeing the proliferation of more and more of that connected frontline worker capability. And then the third pillar is intelligent automation. And, when people think of automation, they think robots. I think a lot of times like physical robots. That's some of what we do. In fact, as I mentioned, we have autonomous mobile robots. But the other part of automation is decision automation. So how can I take all this data in maybe from my ERP system, from my warehouse management system, but also what we call a system of reality data. What do I mean by system of reality? It's where are assets in the moment? That's that visibility I was describing earlier. Be able to bring all that in and then automate certain decisions. What order should go to which distribution center? What should be picked at this moment that's a higher priority than something else in order to meet a cut time to hit a customer SLA? So those three pillars, asset visibility, connected frontline worker, intelligent automation, it's really those three that work together. If you think about the visibility of data, you think about the decision automation and robotics from intelligent automation, and then you think about the people that can become orchestrated and participate in getting the job done. Those three really come together to deliver, the value that we bring to those frontline workers. And AI, just to wrap it up on this topic, is really no different, because AI has really no value unless you have data, right? And we're reading every day how basically over the course of 18 months or so, we've run out of data for AI. Like if you look at all of it, even though we have such a massive amount of data, we've run out of that. But when you think about frontline asset visibility data, that's a fountain of data that's largely still untapped from an AI perspective. It can help orchestrate a lot of business value. So we definitely see the asset visibility, the people, and then the decision automation as all being very important to enabling this AI for the frontline.
And for anyone listening that are working on the front line or involved in an industry where frontline workers are paramount, what does AI for the front line, what does that actually look like in practice? And how does it differ from maybe the AI being built for developers or the creative industry? Any key differences there?
Yeah, no, it's great. That's also a great question. I mean, there's 4 key areas that we've highlighted. We're working really closely with customers. Many, many dozens of customers that we've had interviews with around specifically enabling AI for the front line. And we're excited. We went into some pilots with a mid-sized retailer here in the U.S. just last week around bringing companion generative AI to some of their store workers. But there's kind of 4 key areas. One is purpose-built UX for the frontline, user experience, UI. So think about, very intuitive, pithy voice, text input, super low latency, some of it running down on the device. So a hybrid architecture between the device and the cloud, and very low latency and fast response. So that, if you think about, kind of the office work use case, not maybe as important, right? For the office worker, they typically would have longer prompts. They could wait longer for response. There's, as you pointed out, if they're doing kind of more, certain kind of creative jobs or marketing, these sorts of areas, they could be doing that one-on-one almost.
Yeah.
With the AI. The frontline worker very often is in the, again, they're in that moment of maybe they're interacting with a customer. They're trying to get a physical job done, of inventory moved from one place to the other, or process a return. They've got really speed they've got to go execute on and be thinking about as they're doing that. So purpose-built UX for frontline is one. A second is scalable data ingestion. So if you think about the comment I made earlier around, running out of data, so to speak, for training AI, and that's the whole branch or topic of synthetic data is coming up as a result of that. But, a lot of the data that has been connected from a frontline perspective is very multimodal data that's captured within that environment. So if you think about, we showed this at the National Retail Federation show in January, but if you think about, I can hold up a mobile computer, one of our mobile computing devices, snap a picture of a shelf, and extract all the information out of that shelf. Is the product merchandised the right way? Are the prices set properly on the labels on the shelf? Are there any empty slots in the shelf that need to be restocked? Are things misplaced or not? So how does it compare with the planogram? So that would be an example of data ingestion that you wouldn't probably have in a back office application, right? So using RFID, using vision, machine vision, computer vision, using location technology, much more scalable, diverse, multimodal data ingestion. The third is operational improvement. So the network effect of, if I'm a retailer and I have, hundreds of store locations and I have thousands of workers, I want to be able to understand what's happening across that whole operation. So being able to level up all of this AI interaction into business intelligence that can be used by corporate offices to say, hey, why is store 53 performing so much better than store 26? What's different about those? Maybe there's frequently asked questions that people are asking in one place versus the other, or there's certain things they can't find. Or so taking the network effect of everybody using the system and turning that into operational improvement. And then the final one is integrating with frontline operations, as we like to call it. So this is integrating with tools like communication and collaboration and messaging and task management. So as one worker, I might capture that shelf in the example I gave earlier using my device. The computer vision extracts the information from it, and the AI may then fire off some tasks to someone in the back of the store to replenish an item that's missing on the shelf. It may fire off something to a merchandising person saying, hey, it looks like this price is not set right on the shelf edge. And then it may also give the user that's standing there that actually took the picture something to do as well. But to make that all work, it's got to be integrated with frontline operation tools like task management and workforce management and scheduling. So yeah, those 4 areas are really unique to frontline. And they're ones where we're spending a lot of time getting right for our customers.
And much of what we're talking about is only possible down to Zebra Companion, which was launched earlier this year. You mentioned it at the very beginning of our podcast conversation today, but if for anyone listening anywhere in the world hearing about it for the first time, wondering how it might work for them, just to bring to life what it is and what it does, tell me more about the problems it's designed to solve and also how it's being received by frontline teams, because I think there's a kind of narrative at the moment that AI gets a bad rap for replacing people, but this is not that at all. This is about frontline workers using this to solve real problems and improve operational efficiency, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really about augmenting the front line and having an assistant. So there's 4 elements to Zebra Companion, really agents, sub-agents within Companion. So we think of Companion as the overarching interface into our AI, and then there's 4 agents underneath that. One is a knowledge agent, and the knowledge agent is really focused on everything that's like standard operating procedure oriented within an organization. So bringing in all of that documentation, being able to interact with it, but also bringing certain elements of agentic AI into that too. So if you said how do I process a return, as an example, you could have a step-by-step set of instructions. But you could, for instance, take a picture of the receipt and then have the knowledge agent say, I see that's a receipt. There's 3 things I can do with a receipt. I can issue a new one. I can process a return. I could do something else. And you select process the return, and it can extract the information off that receipt, enter that into the appropriate system. So you actually start to get into a mode of executing the actual processing of the return, as opposed to just getting a list of things that would tell you what the procedure is. So we're starting, obviously, knowledge agent with the former and getting to the latter, which is you can ask it, how do I process that return, get the statements back. But where it gets really interesting, Neil, is when you can then automate entire portions. Let's say there's 8 steps to process a return. If 5 of those, the knowledge agent can just do on its own without the person having to do something, and then the person is just left with the 3, that returns, again, time back to them. That's more time they can spend developing a relationship with the customer and serving the customer. So that's one. The second is sales agent, which is everything product related. How do I upsell, cross-sell? The customer I mentioned that went live last week is actually using this sales agent to help their store floor staff better sell, cross-sell, and merchandise, promote the product that they have to their customers while they're in aisle. So that's sales agent, everything about product. The third one is what we call merchandising agent. This is the example I gave earlier, where you snap a picture of a shelf and it's able to understand what's happening on that shelf and then help the person make sure that it's compliant to the planogram. Things are in the right position on the shelf, it's priced properly, and it's stocked appropriately. And then the last one is what we call a Zebra device agent, which is, using some of our own technology for our products. So you can ask questions or interact to troubleshoot our own devices, whether that's our mobile computers or printers or the 2 of those things working together. You can ask questions about those products and then get the appropriate answers back. So those are the 4 that we're starting with. They're all under Zebra Companion, and the 2 that we're most are most, getting the most traction with customers initially are around the knowledge agent and the sales agent. And these are obviously very focused on retail right now, but we're starting to work with some of our independent software vendors and partners to look at bringing third-party agent capabilities. So think about a partner in manufacturing that maybe has a frontline worker assistant for the manufacturing plant floor, and we'd be able to plug that in to the Zebra Companion framework and take advantage of all those other things that I described earlier. So, yeah, interesting times. Those are the ones we have now in retail in our Companion, and then expect to see more from us in other vertical markets with partners as we move forward.
And although we all have smartphones now, or most people have smartphones, people on the front line are not techies by default. So was there any resistance? How have teams accepted when they've been handed these devices or this technology?
Yeah. So many of our frontline workers, particularly in retail, are already carrying our mobile computers for various types of tasks. That could be cycle counting, inventory, price lookup, or even just to receive tasks themselves. So task management on the device has been there for some time, and communication collaboration is another one. Just think about you and I being able to communicate from front room to back room, message each other, message across stores. So in that case, I think it was a very natural step, right? Hey, layer on this next level capability and staying really close to the end users, which is what we're doing right now in the first few pilots to make sure we get it right. And what we're seeing is they're very much embracing that, and they're getting really creative, like, things we didn't think about, like, hey, what if it worked this way, or I could ask that way, or the response could come back in a different format altogether. So we're taking a lot of that in, but we're getting a lot of good feedback and engagement from customers. Those that didn't have devices previously, and that is something we're starting to see now, which is this technology is bringing so much value that maybe someone that previously wouldn't have had a device is now getting issued a device. And we're still quantifying kind of how much of that's going to happen, but we're definitely seeing it. And, what I would say is two things. One is empowerment is a big word we get back. Hey, feel better empowered to get my job done because I've got the right tools to go and do that. And the second is, on the part of the employer, is lower attrition. I mean, this is probably pretty much a global phenomenon where we've seen, attrition of frontline workers be quite high. They're pretty nomadic sometimes in terms of, moving from one type of position to another, and, getting the right technology in their hands and having this kind of coaching and companion-based feedback has been something that's reduced attrition because people see the value in what it can bring. It makes their job, it increases their job satisfaction. And it definitely does empower them. Example would be, and we see this all the time with messaging and communication. Maybe I figure out something in my job that's really can improve everybody else's outcomes, right? And so I can capture that concept. I can write up a little blurb about it, and then I can broadcast that from a messaging point of view to peers, and also have that be seen by my manager and so on. And that's really an empowering, valuable capability for those frontline workers that helps to reduce attrition and improve job satisfaction. So, I think so far so good.
And of course, retail in particular is a fast-moving and often unpredictable environment. So where does AI make that real tangible difference today, especially when we're talking about the ROI of AI this year? And also, what barriers still need to be addressed to unlock its full potential on the shop floor? What are you seeing here? Because there does seem to be that increasing focus on ROI of any new tech project now.
I think, listen, 2/3 of this, statistics a lot of people don't talk about so much, but 2/3 of the cost of running a store typically is labor. And being able to, leverage and utilize that labor efficiently and effectively is really key for retailers, especially if you think about like something like a grocery retailer, which may just have a few points of profit. They're not operating on big profit margins, in particular, like grocery retailers. So, a 1% improvement or 2% improvement in labor efficiency could meaningfully move, the profitability, or even swing them from not being profitable to being profitable. So the biggest focus, I think, right now is how to make their workforce as effective, efficient, and consistent as they possibly can across all their locations. And I think this is precisely the reason why we're seeing knowledge agent, sales agent, knowledge agent reducing the time people spend trying to figure out how to get something done. Like they just are being, walked through how to get it done. And then they're learning that, and then they're faster the next time. And sales agent being able to, cross-sell and upsell to their customers, more effectively. So that's what we're seeing the first two. In terms of, what can unlock it further, I think you were asking going forward, there's this concept of the omniscient store, as it's being called. And it's kind of like the old sensing store, right? Where you're using camera technology in the infrastructure, you're using handheld devices, electronic shelf labels, maybe shelf edge cameras, and you're able to see inventory, people, product in real time, and then use that to direct store operations and drive up efficiencies and drive up basket size of the shopper. And there's been several attempts at these kinds of things in the past. I mean, we've seen some of the big e-com providers that have gotten into brick and mortar look at like just walk out stores, right, where you just pick up what you want and walk out. And I think we're going to see hybrid models of that. We're starting to see more omniscient stores, more camera and sensing technology go into the store. And then we're starting to see more automated ways of doing checkout. So maybe you don't just pick everything up and just walk out, but maybe you pick everything up and you just, like in a convenience format, you just put your 5 items under a camera at checkout, and it detects what all those are, and you're out the store. So you still have a choke point to go through on the way out, but that is going to be much faster than maybe the traditional, singulated barcode scanning of every item. So those are, I think, some of the unlocks that are coming. And of course, that omniscient store concept creates more and more data for that AI to operate on and help do intelligent things with.
And before you joined me on the podcast today, I was also recently reading that Zebra has invested in machine vision and 3D technology. So again, what are the real world gains that you're seeing from this, and what role do you see AI playing in powering some of these emerging capabilities?
Yeah, sure. So in the last few years, we acquired Matrox Imaging based out of Canada. We acquired a small software team, but very mighty software team with their capabilities out of Poland, Adaptive Vision. 6 years ago, so we acquired Cortexica out of London, which is a computer vision company as well. And then, of course, our own organic capabilities. And then most recently, Photoneo on the 3D side. So yeah, lots of action going on there for Zebra in the machine vision, fixed industrial scanning, computer vision space. I mean, the applications we're seeing are, primarily around logistics applications. So think about the movement in and out of the dock door, conveyed goods that are on a belt, and they got to be read at very high speed. From identifying the right products are moving in the right way around the facility, whether that's on conveyor or it's going out to in or off of a truck at a dock door, and that's using combinations of high speed cameras and fixed industrial scanning, as well as RFID. And Zebra is really uniquely positioned to bring RFID and machine vision together. We have number one market share in RFID, and we're climbing up the ladder on the machine vision side, given the acquisitions I mentioned. And we're seeing the demand from our customers. So that multimodality and bringing that capability together, those are all big applications in the logistics space. The other would be in manufacturing, particularly for Zebra, automotive manufacturing, as well as electronics manufacturing, being able to do inspection, quality control, anomaly detection. So if you think about semiconductor wafers as an example, our systems actually use machine vision to inspect those wafers, identify if there's any defects, or in the case of battery cell manufacturer, being able to look at the joints and the connectors that are connecting those cells together in a battery pack, which is, there's many connections. They're very tedious and they're extremely critical. So you have this kind of, highly redundant, repetitive inspection task that's just way better done by, a machine vision camera than someone tediously kind of looking at every single, one of those connections and verifying it's done the right way. And so, we could shift people from doing those repetitive, dull inspection tasks over to doing higher value tasks on the plant floor, and then have the machine vision cameras do that in an autonomous fashion. So those are some of the key use cases we're seeing around machine vision.
And as we record this podcast today, we're in the third year since generative AI simply blew everything out of the water and dominated every conversation. We're now seeing a lot of maturity here and solving real world problems. So looking further ahead, what excites you most about the direction that AI is heading, especially when we think about physical workspaces and, most importantly of all, the people operating within them?
Yeah. So one of the things we talk about quite a bit at Zebra is human-centered automation. And what we mean by that is, there will be examples where some combination of AI, robotics, automation is able to do certain types of tasks completely, right? And those tasks are like the inspection one I was giving earlier are not ones that people are particularly, excited about doing, or particularly good at doing because it's, very repetitive, monotonous. In some cases, it could be dangerous. So I think the dull, dirty, dangerous set of things, the more we can automate those, the better for the very reasons of those 3Ds that I just described. But collaborative AI, human-centered automation, where there is a relationship, really, if you will, between the automation and the AI and the person. So this is certainly the case in all of that, the Zebra Companion examples I gave and the agents. It's certainly the case with autonomous mobile robots, where a person is doing the picking of goods, maybe in an e-commerce center, but the robot is doing the transportation of those goods across the facility and out to the shipping station. And think about it, in some of those environments, before the autonomous mobile robots were deployed, sometimes people were walking 15 miles a day through the facility to pick certain things and get to the packing station. Now the robot's effectively doing most of the walking, and people can focus on the picking and the job at hand. And in those examples, as we've seen from our customers, we get lots of good feedback in terms of job satisfaction in those kinds of scenarios. So the collaborative AI component, I think, is really exciting to me. As I was mentioning a little bit, in the beginning of the podcast, a bit, the idea of wearable technology that can understand what's happening in an environment and then interact with me. And so an example, I think, is, and we demonstrated this just from a prototype perspective already, but the idea of like in a picking application, so if you ordered, a gluten-free product and I'm the picker in the store that's going to ship from the store to your home, and I'm about to pick the wrong, maybe I'm not picking the gluten-free version, I make a mistake. If I have a wearable camera that can see I'm about to pick the wrong thing, it can say, hey, that's the wrong item. It's the one here on the left. And that correction then is made in that moment before, you're a dissatisfied customer because the wrong item ended up getting shipped to your home, which is, not good experience for you. It's not a good experience for the retailer because, they disappointed you. And then they've got the whole reverse logistics cost of that to deal with at that point. So, and if you're the operator, if you're the person getting nudged, so to speak, to say, hey, don't pick that one, pick this one, is something that is a better experience, for you overall, knowing that you can have something that's really got your back in so many different ways from an AI and an assistive point of view. But in that example I just gave, it's working with the person, it's collaborating, and it's human-centered. And we think there's a lot of potential in that going forward.
I think that's a powerful moment to end on. But before I do let you go, I think there is a real pressure on each and every one of us to be in a state of continuous learning now. And as someone challenged with leading the way, you must feel that more than most. So a question I'd love to ask is, where or how do you self-educate? How do you keep up to speed with this pace of technological change? Any tips there?
Yeah, sure. So, there's no one place, I would say, but I really do like to immerse myself in, multiple areas and then kind of triangulate on where things are going from that regard. So there's a few different places where I do that. Benedict Evans is a great analyst, I guess, if I could call him that, but he used to be at Andreessen Horowitz. Now he has his own blog, and he's got his own newsletter. And I receive that newsletter and watch his talks, and he's always got insightful things to say. So that would be one. Another podcast I'm kind of hooked on is a Fat Founders podcast, which is an interesting one that's really more about leaders in various organizations and kind of learning some of the less technical things and more sometimes technical, but sometimes just soft skill kind of areas. That's an interesting one. Large tech partners of ours. So whether it's Google, it's Qualcomm, it's NVIDIA. we do a lot of work with them, so we learn tons from them. And then, of course, I mentioned earlier our customers and partners. I'm always trying to immerse, and I'm meeting with a couple of customers this week and met with partners a few weeks ago. Lots of networking events. So I'm fortunate enough to be, near a major city, near New York City. I'm based in Long Island, and there is just, no shortage of networking events, particularly in the tech space. So attend a number of those. And then industry analysts is something that we, whether it's industry analyst reports or it's analyst days where we get the opportunity to meet with them and kind of understand what they're seeing. And if you think about those 7 or 8 areas that I just described, you start to see when you get the diversity of that thought across those different areas, certain things start to, come out as common areas that create bright spots in terms of where you should focus. So, I'm not a one-stop shop, but I am a, see what signal rises from the noise when you speak to a number of different sources.
Absolutely love that. And for anyone listening wanting to dig a little bit deeper on everything we talked about today, we did cover a lot there. So any business leaders in particular that would like to find out more, where would you like to point everyone listening?
Yeah, great. So zebra.com is a great place to start. And then if you're out on zebra.com, you can check out our newsroom for all the latest that's happening there. And certainly, I'm very accessible on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out to myself on LinkedIn directly if you like.
Well, I'll have links to everything there, so make it nice and easy for people to find you. And I think there is so much talk this year around agentic AI and different AI tools that are so useful for people in creative roles, desk and knowledge workers and developers. But what about the rest? That was the conversation that I wanted to explore today, especially because it represents 80% of the global workforce. And by that, we mean factory engineers, retail shop workers, logistic drivers, nurses. The list goes on and on. So I salute anyone working in this space. And I love how you're using technology to make their life easier. But just thank you for shining an important light on this today. Thanks again, Tom.
Hey, Neil, thank you very much for the thoughtful questions and pleasure chatting with you today. Thanks.
If you're working in manufacturing, healthcare, logistics or retail and thought AI had nothing to offer you or your frontline teams, I'm hoping that Tom might have just flipped that assumption and also busted a few myths and misconceptions around AI there too. Because today we've heard how Zebra's companion platform is already making a difference, and making a difference not by replacing workers, but giving them better tools to do their jobs faster, more accurately, and with less friction. So from machine vision in warehouses to real-time sales support in store, AI isn't just about writing copy, crunching spreadsheets, producing PowerPoint presentations. It's about understanding the exact context in which work gets done and build the technology that fits around that. So if you are planning your next move with AI, maybe start asking, who is this really built for? I'd love to hear what you think about this topic. So is AI on the front line overdue, or is it still too early? Let me know your thoughts. And if this episode got you thinking, share it with someone in your network who works in a frontline team or just might find it interesting. So as always, techblogwriter@outlook.com, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, just @NeilC.Hughes. But that's it. I've taken up far too much of your time today. I'll be back again soon with another guest. But thank you for listening as always, and I'll speak with you then.